Here on our Monday, it is the 17th day of February to talk City Council business with the Mayor, Sarah Pierce, and the council meeting is tomorrow, being Tuesday, today President's Day, so holiday, but we're still going to have our conversation. So good to see you.
Good to see you too.
The agenda has a few things on it. One being, I guess we'll start out with the pilot agreement, right?
Sure.
Because there's a pilot agreement, which is a payment in lieu of taxes for development that's going to be on Commerce Drive. What is the development first? What's going in over there?
So it's a project by DePaul Properties. They're out of the Rochester area. It's essentially low-income housing with housing that is specified, a certain portion of that housing for veterans and other vulnerable populations. And it's a type of project that I believe they're going to have assistance on site for individuals who might need any kind of living support, whether that be for mental health issues, connecting with resources in the community if they may have been unhoused previously. So that, in a nutshell, is what that project is.
And quite a few units, right? I mean, this is a big project out there.
Correct. I can't remember off the top of my head specifically the number of units, but it is a larger project, yes.
Multi-million-dollar project
Yes.
for building. So they come and they want a payment in lieu of taxes, and we're talking property taxes with this one. Who puts together the pilot first? Is it city or is that a county thing? Answer that first.
It's the city who has been working with DePaul Properties, a developer.
Are they looking for other breaks as well from other government taxing agencies? Do you know?
I believe they might be. I know that they're working with the state, and I believe they do have funding secured from the state for the project. So it's a number of different forms of assistance that they're getting to make this project possible, as well as their own investment.
So what they want to do is, it sounds like a 40-year
I believe
agreement?
it is 40 years,
And
yes.
payment in lieu of taxes. Instead of doing property taxes as a resident would, they're looking for a break on that. But their argument on the other side is, hey, we're bringing this development to you. They're not going to be tax-free. It is a taxable property, so it is development that the city would be expanding the tax base, for one, right? So what is the agreement that or that is being negotiated, or what's in front of council?
So essentially what's in front of council for tomorrow evening is it's $50,000 initially, and then that payment annually will increase by 2.5% per year. And so the example that we have on our agenda is year one, it's a $50,000 payment that we are receiving in lieu of taxes. And then by year 40, it'll be $131,000 that we'll be receiving.
So that would be essentially the tax bill, property tax bill on that property in year one, $50,000, and then it increases 2.5% going beyond that for 40 years.
Correct.
I don't know if Watertown's done a pilot agreement in quite some time. They were popular
Yes.
10, 15 years ago. And they're done on the county level. But this council that we have right now, what's the appetite on council for a pilot agreement?
I know that there are varying opinions. I think that certain members of council, I certainly don't want to speak for anybody, but my assumption is certain members of council definitely, I would say probably everybody sees the value in having that sort of development where you have the units that are set aside for individuals who are veterans, the unhoused, people with mental health issues. So there certainly is value in that. I know some of the concern that I've heard is that the right place for that sort of development? Because that is an area of the city where we have a lot of hotels where people come, and when they come visit, they stay there. And there's also the concern of fair treatment, quite honestly. If we do this for a developer, set in stone 2.5% increase per year, you might have the taxpayers, or you do have the taxpayers saying, where's my guarantee that my taxes are only going to, or that essentially my taxes are only going to increase that much. So there is the question of, is it fair? I get, why developers want pilots. They want that guarantee. And in certain situations, I think it is essential, but there is the flip side of the fairness to taxpayers who are in the city.
The developer also will say, hey, we're bringing this project to you. We're bringing something, and to make it, it's expensive to build right now, but to make this project viable, to make the numbers work for us to do this, to expand the tax base and also help out a need that the city has, we're able to do this, but your piece of the puzzle needs to be this pilot agreement. And do you think that if council doesn't, how long have they been working on this?
It's been a number of months now. We had DePaul come and present at a work session several months ago. So this is the final agreement that's being presented to
Do you
the
think
council.
if it doesn't happen, does it stop the project?
I mean, I don't want to speak for the developer,
Sure.
but I don't think it would stop the project because it's already moving along. I don't think it necessarily would stop it, but I suppose anything's on the table.
So if they know that they're going to be 50 grand in the start, 2.5% each year after that, what if taxes for all the other residents in the city go up because we know the city is facing dire straits when it comes to the budget? What if everybody else in the city is facing a 12% tax hike?
Right, and I would say that is the argument against a pilot. You worded it perfectly.
So that vote comes up tomorrow.
Yes.
And is there any more of a presentation, or is it just the resolution?
It's just the resolution, but I do believe we'll have an individual from DePaul there to answer questions from council, should there be any.
Let's talk about some updates to, is it zoning that
Yes.
council's going to be talking about as well? And it was in 2023 that council, would it have been a major overhaul with zoning?
It was a major overhaul. It was a zoning rewrite, and that was adopted in 2023. So since that time, individuals who are on the zoning commission, or the zoning commission, I think so. That's what they're called now. They had a change in name. Planning commission, actually. Looked at it, concerns were brought forward by people in the community regarding changes that we might need to make, tweaks that we might need to make, because this was, as you said, basically an overhaul of zoning in the city. So what's on the agenda is an ordinance to update that zoning further, make those specific tweaks, whether it be to language, whether it be to metrics that developers might need to meet. So that's essentially what we'll be doing, is updating them.
Mm-hmm. And zoning is, if somebody wants to build something somewhere, it has to be within the right zone. A huge 10-story apartment complex can't happen in a residential neighborhood.
Correct, yes.
It's not the same, and so that's why it's there. But those major changes were made in 2023. Now it's just these coming up here are just small tweaks.
It's a lot of little tweaks. Like one example I would say that is outlined in the agenda for tomorrow night is the percentage of transparency that a developer might need to have on the ground floor in a certain zone. And when I say transparency, like the number of windows, being able to see inside a business or a property. So just small tweaks like that.
Pollinator gardens, that's up on the agenda as well. Give us the backstory on this. How did this come to being in front of council?
So this was last year. We had a family over on the corner of, I believe it was Academy and maybe Arlington Street. I can't remember the cross street, but they have a property where it's essentially a corner lot. They had a pollinator garden, and for people who don't know what pollinator gardens are, it's essentially you allow certain types of plants to grow and become habitats for certain species, butterflies, I assume other insects, that sort of thing. So this family essentially brought the issue to council's attention that there should be a change in the code that would allow for pollinator gardens. Council debated this issue and ultimately decided we wanted to move in the direction of allowing pollinator gardens within the city. So that's going to be a point of discussion at tomorrow's meeting, not only the changes that are required to allow for pollinator gardens, but also Codes has brought forward a proposal that's been seen in other areas of the country for what's called No Mow May. And basically what happens with No Mow May, it's just as the name sounds, you don't mow your grass for the month of May and allow a pollinator garden to develop on your property. And essentially what the proposal from Codes would do is people who want to take part in No Mow May, they would have to register with Codes to do that. And so as we were chatting before we started here, I'm not sure exactly how that works at the end of May. You do mow, do you eliminate the habitat? I don't know what happens.
Maybe
to
beyond
the species, I don't know, but
maybe beyond the pollinating, season for the bees or whatever. So, but the ordinance, the reason you got to talk about it is because the city does have a rule that you got to have your grass mowed.
Right, yes.
And if it's so high, then you get ticketed and
Correct.
fined or whatever. So, but this is something that would blanket the city for a No Mow May, but you have to register.
correct.
Tell
Yes, you would
Codes that
have
you're
to
doing
register, and I think that if I recall correctly in the packet, they have kind of a sign that you would put in your yard just to signify that, hey, I'm not just not mowing my grass, I'm taking part in No Mow May.
And that's happened around the country. Do you hear from other people? I mean, that one couple that I don't want to say started it, but brought the attention to
Yes.
it, right? Because they unfortunately had their pollinating garden mowed down
Correct.
by the city, right?
And
So
we have heard in the wake of that from other people in the community who have desired to have pollinator gardens on their property. And even before that, I've seen in the city where people have been participating in No Mow May, even though it technically wasn't allowed in the city, but people have been doing that. I've seen the signs in people's yards. So this essentially would formalize that process for people who would like to participate in something like that.
And finally, the city had an audit. Every year, there's an audit done on city finances, independent look at the books. And you've looked at that and what the decisions, the opinions of the auditors, what did it have to say?
No real glaring issues on the city side of things. I think that's a credit to our comptroller, Mr. Mills, who does a great job keeping everything on track and making sure that everything's reported correctly. So no real issues with the audit, but I believe we will have the auditors there tomorrow evening, and they'll go through it as they've done in past years, and the council have the opportunity to ask questions and discuss things further.
Running a city that has the budget that Watertown has and an audit, there's always something in there that could be better. Do you remember anything from it, even if it's a small highlight that oversight or anything like that? Or
honestly, it was
oddly
a
to
pretty
get a clean audit. Yeah.
It was a pretty clean bill of health for finances, aside from the obvious issues that we've talked about time and time again about reliance on fund balance, that sort of thing.
Right, and the projection of running out of money and being in debt in a couple of years of like $9 million. All right, so the meeting is tomorrow. It's in City Council Chambers, 7 o'clock. Tomorrow being the 18th, because today, as we're recording this, is a holiday, so no city business for the day today. 7 o'clock is the start. Public comment period, of course, that people can speak to council, and you can ask questions and be part of city business. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thanks.
Thank you.